Black women are over functioners. We're constantly doing and doing and doing and doing for everyone, plus our jobs.
Sisters, hey, little girl, are you looking for hope in a world that has lied to you about who you really are? Wrong woman, holding in story she needs to tell.
Welcome back to Staci Speaks Hope. Our guest today is Wynn Helms. We are so excited to have her. We met through the podcast community, and her podcast we're going to hear a little bit more about as we proceed. But let me give you a little bit about her background. Wynn has been a psychotherapist for over 25 years, and her heart's desire in her podcast for Black women north of 50 is to bring some sense of community, share information, provide support for the things that happen, change, and occur in our lives as we cross that threshold, and have a little fun with entertainment. Wynn, we're so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. It's great to
And
be here.
thank you. Today, we continue the conversation. Obviously, you've been on the other side of a lot of people's stories.
Yes.
And I'm sure the little girl story has come up. But today,
Oh,
I'd like to
goodness.
ask you about your little girl.
My little girl, goodness. The work that I do in psychotherapy has to do with mind, body, spirit connection.
Mm.
And a lot of times I will talk with my clients with the women about their little girl and what they remember. And when they remember that little girl, how old is she? Because a lot of times that's when something significant has happened.
Yes.
My little girl remembers being 4. So that's where I go when I think about my inner little girl, my little child,
Yes.
and someone that I guess I didn't even recognize that I needed her up until I started doing psychotherapy.
Mm.
And then I recognized that this was an important part of who I am.
What do you remember about her?
I remember, first of all, I remember a picture. I remember the house we lived in. And I am the younger of 2 girls. I remember being the baby sister, you
Yeah.
know, and following my sister's lead and everything. But it's only 18 months apart, but still, she was my big sister.
Oh.
And I remember our school. I remember a couple of birthday parties actually. And yeah, I don't remember a lot. I just have fond memories of being 4.
What were the things that brought her joy? Does anything come to mind when you think of that?
Sorry. I was thinking about a friend I had. Her name was Sarah Bacorny.
That's a funny name at 4. I'm sure that was so fun to say. But corny, but corny.
Bacorny, right. And it wasn't, I didn't call people by their first name. No. Who's your friend? Sarah Bacorny. Um, and I remember going over to her house and listening to the Beatles. Oh, how funny. Just now bringing this up. Um, yeah, friendships. I remember a friend named Gail. I can't remember Gail's last name, but yeah. Oh, Gary. Oh my goodness, Gary lived across the street. Honeycutt. Oh, it's coming back. Gary Honeycutt had sisters, and his sisters had a huge, huge box of dolls. And Gary was nice and all. I mean, we hung out, but I wanted to be there when his sisters had all of her dolls. I remember that.
That's so funny. My 4-year-old friend was Janet Lynn Smith.
There you go. Lots
Name.
of names.
Whole thing. And it's so funny that just how those things cling to our memories, right?
Yes,
All these years
yes.
later. But the sweetness and the innocence of that friendship.
Exactly. And it was oh goodness. I just had a memory of something that wasn't so pleasant. I don't know if you want me to talk about that or
I
not.
was about to ask you that next. Go right ahead.
Well, my parents both worked, and we had to, they had babysitters back in the day. You didn't, whoever, it's a neighborhood person, or you can watch my, okay. And for whatever reason, I was there by myself at her house, and she was mean. She was mean to me. And I don't remember exactly. I just remember her putting me in a room, sort of locking me in a room
Oh, wow.
by myself. That's basically all I remember. But I do remember telling my mother, I don't want to go back there. And I never did. Thank heavens. But yeah, that was scary.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just hurt my heart that happened.
Yeah. Well, you're so blessed that your mother listened to you, that you had
Absolutely.
the voice to speak.
Yeah. Good point. It's hard sometimes to get out the things that are challenging.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really didn't want to go back, that's for sure. I let somebody know, but um, yeah, and even now it's getting out that voice of something that is distasteful or mean or whatever, that something that's happened to me. I have to think on it for a little bit, pray
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
and get the words the way I want them so that the person can, hopefully the other person can hear it. And it also speaks my own truth. And
Yeah.
sometimes that takes a little bit of time. It doesn't automatically pop up for me anyway.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm curious about this question. It's kind of in the processing stage. Have you ever pondered what would happen if you just said with the unfiltered, unchecked version of what you were thinking?
No. The answer to that. I think because of my studies and being a psychotherapist, there is this um, concentration on communication. And if the other person can't hear you, then there is no communication.
That's such a
So I
good point.
do, I process that like, okay, what is it that's happening that, um, I'll give you an example. I was a brand new psychotherapist. And but for those of you who don't know, you have to have a bunch of hours and supervision, and it's a really long process. So I was at the very beginning of this process of getting my hours, and my supervisor was known for being tough and known for giving you really good guidance and good information. So I was happy to have her. And at this particular time, um, I got a client. It was a family. It was husband, wife, and a little boy who was maybe 5 years old.
Mhm.
And they came in, and the issue was about his behavior.
Mm.
So I spoke to the little boy and I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. Play over here with these toys and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to talk to your parents. So I talked to his parents and whatever. And I didn't see anything that was wrong with him. I knew I was new at it, but I was like, what are y'all talking about? So they left, and I think we made another appointment. And somewhere in the next week, the woman calls me and tells me that she's being abused, that there's domestic violence.
Mm.
And, I'm brand new at this. I'm going, I'm supposed to be able to help this woman. What do I do? What do I do? Which is why you have supervisors, right? I called my supervisor, and I was just at, like I used to say, sixes and sevens. What do I do? Oh my gosh. And my supervisor said to me, if you're going to act like that, I don't want you for a supervisee. Okay. um, I didn't know what to do with that. But she did help me through. I was able to get help for the woman. And so that, most importantly, that's what happened. I was able to get help to help her. But I knew I had to say something. And I
Mhm.
thought, huh, this is my supervisor. What do I do? How do I say this in a way that's respectful and yet tells her that just wasn't okay,
Like, don't you ever
Um,
without going there, right?
right. So I went in, and it took a couple of days for me to get up the nerve to go and talk to her. And finally, I just said, I really have some feelings about our conversation about ex-client and what was happening. And she listened. And to be quite honest, I don't remember exactly what she said. What I remember is what happened after that, which was I got transferred to another supervisor. So I guess she just thought we weren't a good fit or something. But it is an example of how just sitting with something that's not an emergency. It wasn't an emergency that I was having problems with the client. It was just I had some issues with her.
Yeah.
Um, and I knew I needed to find a way to talk to her about it.
As
Yeah.
the things that we are conditioned, whether it's directly or indirectly, about our voice, about if you so you weren't always a psychotherapist when you were 40 years ago, or you've been doing psychotherapy for 25 years. Before that, when you were in elementary school, what was your
Okay.
voice like then?
Oh,
Did you have to
goodness.
filter it a lot, or now? I mean, now
Oh, yeah.
filter it a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Case in point. It was about eight, or yeah, second or third grade. And we lived this is the mid 60s, and my father was in the service, and he chose to move to Oregon instead of North Carolina because of all the unrest that was happening in the civil rights movement. So I lived in a community that was mostly white. That said, I liked school. I liked almost everything. And then this one day on the playground, I could see her face. This little girl, cute little girl, blonde blue, says, "You're an in." I didn't know what to do with that. So I said, "No, I'm not," which I'm not. At the same time, I didn't know, you know what I'm
No
saying?
thing.
I didn't ask her, and I just wasn't, I just knew good. I don't ever remember hearing that word before.
Mm,
And, at eight, I mean, goodness, what do we know about communicating or how to get our voice across to someone else? But that sticks out in my mind as a time when, like, huh, I need to process this a little bit. And I don't remember whether I talked to my parents about it or not, to be honest.
mm.
Um, but it stands out.
So funny. My story is almost identical, almost the same age. There were three boys, and I don't think they called me the N word, but they were just cussing at me and just yelling at me and just
Mm,
totally went off on me.
mm.
And it rocked me to my core because just the confusion.
What's
Uh,
happening here?
I was fine. I'm over here minding my business. I wasn't even talking to you. I was playing by myself and quite content about it. And so it's just, I don't know that I said anything. I'm sure I didn't because it was 3-on-1, and and what that did for me. That I mean, that was like my trauma moment where,
Yeah,
and I
sure.
was thinking about that this morning and just in prayer, what happened after that? I know we moved. I know I left the school. I had this story in my mind that my mother tried to get the school shut down because she's like, if my child can't go there, nobody's can. Um, but then we moved, and I was in a different environment where it was like, you talk like a white girl. I'm like, from the black kids. And I was like, I just talk.
Right,
And what
exactly.
that does to identity, what that does to sense of self, what that does to feeling love, what that does to where it's a pain point of rejection and acceptance, and the whole
Mhm.
cycle that goes through and how that shows up. So,
Yeah, I actually didn't. I moved from, let's see, I bounced around, um, did puberty in the Midwest, but then I moved to Maryland and went to school at the University of Maryland. And it wasn't until I came east that I started to feel uncomfortable about having been raised in a mostly white society because I started to get negative talk from other Black people.
mhm.
Why do you sound white? Kind of thing, which
Yeah.
was upsetting, it's like, wait a minute.
You're hearing what I'm saying or how I'm saying it.
How I'm saying, and I was so happy to be around so many Black people that it was kind of jarring.
Yeah.
Um, but once again, learned how to think before speaking is always good.
And it's a thing to learn. And it's were you taught that? Did your mother or your parents teach you that?
Learned it. I learned it from being in my family. I can't say
Mhm.
um, there was something that was taught. I was taught um, wonderful things from my mother. She was an English professor and loved literature, and so I was taught how to be respectful and intelligent and how not to have a New England accent. She was in Massachusetts and she was sure you're not going to have an accent. Because I guess she got teased about it. But at any rate, yeah, I don't know that it was taught.
Taught,
I just, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's a good
not
question.
overtly. I mean, and that's, as you I'm sure know, how we often learn things of by observation, by your little girl taking in the surroundings in your environment. It said, this is good, this is acceptable, this is true, this is right,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
this is
this
not.
worked.
And this,
That wasn't good. I do
yeah,
it another
yeah,
way, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So whether it was if you did it and you were corrected about it, versus or just nobody does this, so this is the model of how to be.
Right. And learning through experience. I think that's how we all learn. I know there are different kind of learners, and I'm one of those kinesthetic learners that learns through experience and that kind of thing, which is just funny because I'm all off topic, but doing visual work, doing podcasts, all of these things, it's so hard for me to sit and listen to a webinar because I learn better when I'm interacting with someone in person.
Absolutely.
Learn through experience instead of being taught something in words, which
Mhm.
has its its downfalls when you're young. But you know what? You learn it and you live to tell it. So,
It's true.
mhm.
So do you have any vivid memories of your little girl that like you described the jarring feeling as you were younger? Were there any moments of that you would say as that were just like unsettling that your little girl that existed in your young girl experience that maybe you saw find trickle its way through your life into adulthood?
Sure, goodness. Oh goodness. Not on the spot here. Uh, I'm
Comes up.
trying to think. Oh goodness. Um, I'm sure there are I'm sure there are a lot of examples, and some of it has to do with taking responsibility. We'll do that one. Taking responsibility for other people as
Mm,
opposed to taking responsibility for me and the little girl, Um, not well, maybe it was people pleasing, maybe of sorts, and learning how to combat that, correct that as an adult. Because I mean, I wanted, like I think all kids, you want to be loved,
yes.
you want to fit in, and learning to do that. I had a great childhood. I don't have a lot of trauma, which I feel very blessed about.
Mhm.
And yet, we learn a lot of things through challenges. And one of the things I was modeled, I think, is other first, self second.
Mhm.
And in some cases that's absolutely correct. And in others, other situations, it's like, wait a minute, self-care, what? Wait, what? What is that? Kind of thing. Um,
Exactly.
and I'm still learning that one, to be honest.
Yeah. I mean, and I think these it's so subtle the way we learn that type of thing.
I
And
think you're
I
right.
meant that you mentioned, I like that you mentioned that you didn't have trauma and what trauma looks like can vary so much from person to person, right? Trauma is what's traumatic to you.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
simple
actually
to one person.
I felt I want to go back because um, that was a little glib. I want to take that back. I think that we all experience some level of trauma when we're kids, just because we're kids and we're learning and life is happening around us. And some kids don't have the support to get through that other kids have.
Yeah.
I well, being a psychotherapist, I hear a lot,
Right.
and I feel very fortunate that my childhood was not um, damaging in ways that a lot of people's were.
Hmm.
And I know I still have things to learn from that I didn't get when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I always tell my clients, I'm not going to bash your parents. They did the best they could.
Right.
And there's some stuff you didn't get because they didn't know. So you can't teach you something you don't know. Um,
Exactly.
and it can leave scars.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And it's funny that no matter what, we can still end up at this path of people pleasing because our hearts want the same thing. Our little girl wants to feel safe and loved. And whatever our processing was as a little girl that became an adolescent, that became a woman, still ended up saying, this is the behavior that meets that need or solves that issue, that longing.
And also it goes back to taking a step back. Like, okay, something's wrong with this communication. What's happening here? And really looking at what is the behavior that is not settling right, and how do I communicate that with the other person? And a lot of times it's just by setting boundaries, and that's a lot of internal um, juggling to figure out what is this relationship? What do I want it to be? How do I take care of myself? And those are things that my little girl had to learn how to do.
Yeah. Again, because the generation that we grew up in, I'm in your age, in that same
Mhm.
age range you're talking about. And my sister and I used to look at each other and say, I don't know if I want to do it that way. But yet we still saw that model and we still did it because that's what we knew. But we kind of were curious about maybe there's another way to do this.
Sure.
Put
And
somebody else first. Maybe I can have the best piece of chicken and not the last piece of chicken. Just whatever the things were.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
So, how
I'm
would you
trying.
share with a woman who is on this journey, beginning this journey, or yet to begin it? You just said a few key elements about when things are not feeling a certain way and even being able to set boundaries. My last episode was talking about boundaries, but do little girls know how to do that? How does a little girl or a lost little girl that needs to go be found, how would you tell her to do that?
In the work that I do, I ask people to look inward, and it goes along with a modality called internal family systems, um, which is uh, a 25-cent expression that talks about the different parts of us and getting in tune with them.
Mhm.
Uh, so I talk with people about, and I ask them, you remember this? How old were you when you remembered it?
Mhm.
And what was happening to you in your life? And what feeling is coming up? Because I did an episode with a woman who had an expression that I love, which is Black women are over functioners. We're constantly doing and doing and doing and doing for everyone, plus our jobs, kind of thing. And I think that recognizing that we're doing a lot is first. Oh, okay, I'm in this picture. There's something here for me to learn about myself, taking care of self, etc. I talk to them about what that looks like. And sometimes my clients will be like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? Kind of thing. Because it's not something that's taught, particularly for our generation. It's just, you know, you go, you do, you do, you go kind of thing, for everybody else. I think the beginning of the journey it's sitting in your own authentic place, getting comfortable in your own skin, about what works, what doesn't work, how it's okay if it doesn't work, and it doesn't have to please everybody. It's just what it is.
Mm.
And really getting comfortable with, oh, I take up space and that's a good thing. I take up space and my values count. They
Mm.
mean something and I'm going to express them.
And to get to that space for so many women who have been overtly or covertly sold, you don't matter. You nobody cares what you think. Be quiet, don't say nothing. You talk too much, blah, 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 blah. That's a
Mhm.
huge moment. And even before that, you said to sit with your feelings. Well, first of all, I have to sit. And
Right.
if I'm always taught to go and do and everything for everybody else, sitting, stopping, feeling,
What?
well,
Exactly. No,
just
it's true.
so we're so detached from ourselves.
Which is part of what I do in my work is let people, maybe for the first time, sit in themselves. And it can be very difficult because I have clients that don't get there very quickly.
Yeah.
And I tell them, like, you're in your head, you know that, right? You're thinking a lot, which is, you know what? Thinking is good. You think, you do, you um, manifest, all of these things, and yet someone's left out of that equation, and it, tends to be us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're right. You have to be still and look inside and get comfortable with that, which is really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. This is such helpful information because and I think this being such a profound statement and knowing that it is so elusive to so many that
Mhm.
I don't want to like rush past it.
Okay. Yeah. And I get that. And as you're talking, I'm thinking, once again, our mothers and our grandmothers, they didn't have time to sit down and feel feelings. And, this is a relatively new concept that we are really fortunate to be able to embrace. And that said, it's not modeled that much for our generation. Now, maybe we are modeling it for our kids.
Yeah.
And for north of 50 women, Black women particularly, what is that? What is retirement? You mean I stop working? What? Huh? What does
Then what
that
do I do?
mean?
Wait, who am I when I'm not
And
doing for everybody else? Who am I? Now I have no identity.
and what is my purpose? Why am I here? I've done so much, and a lot of times it's even difficult to think about and embrace how much you've done. Um, well, I was just a mother. I was just domestic helper.
Right.
Yes, you did a lot. I remember stories about my grandmother, was a single mother and was a domestic, worked in people's homes. That's no small thing. First of all, being a single parent is no small thing. And having to work a job like being a domestic, being a maid, is incredibly difficult, particularly back in, what are we talking here? Um, Heavens, 80 years ago? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna
for
say
Black women.
50s for sure.
It's hard to even think. It's like, wow, 80 years, because that's about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I love that you have, I'm going to synthesize and say, given us permission, giving that woman permission to be still and to feel and to be patient with the process. And it doesn't happen overnight because it's so
Uh-uh.
foreign. You've probably never seen it. So you are a curse breaker for generations by finding out how to do this. Even if your kids
Yes.
are grown and they see you, hey, mom, you're different. Hey, Nana,
Mhm.
hey, grandma, you're different. That changes
There's a,
the cycle.
yes, exactly. And that's so incredibly important. I was thinking about this. I have a plaque on my wall that says, "Be still. I want to know God's thoughts. The rest are details."
Ooh,
And it's what's important to that is that it's Albert Einstein who said that. And he was, I thought, I love that. Yeah, be still, just allow yourself to calm down. And I hate that term, but um, allow yourself to look in and meditate. And I think people have an idea of what meditation looks like. I think of prayer as meditation as well.
I do too.
That's part of being still
Hmm.
and with your authentic self, your whatever you decide is your God or your spiritual whatever, your true self.
Yeah.
It's just important to embrace.
And it's funny for me when you said calm down, it resonates for me because some of the energy that I refer to as frenetic is a lack of internal calm.
Mm,
I think of calm as peace. So calm down is embrace peace, find peace, seek peace. Let yourself
yes,
know that whatever you're fearful of, running and going and doing and being, because you're really afraid to be still and feel.
yes. Hmm.
So that's another spin on that. Calm down. I mean, I know when you're upset and people say calm down, it's very patronizing and it's very condescending, and you want to
Yeah.
smack them. And I'm like, now I'm upset more.
It's like
Told me to
you
calm.
have not seen me. Yeah. But back to your point, I know my truth by the calm that surrounds it.
Mm,
And the way to find that is to be still. And I want to live more in my truth day to day than I ever have, you know.
since these are concepts that may be elusive to people or new, describe to me, can you paint a verbal picture of what your calm surrounding you looks like, feels like, smells like, sounds like, whatever?
Well, the first thing that comes up is ice cream because I always go back to food. But it's an expanse, it's a space of total acceptance, self acceptance, where I'm not struggling with what I did or didn't do, or like what I need to do or should do. And um, it's just okay to be at peace, to be Wynn, whatever that entails, and no judgment, no shame, just a clear sense of this is this vessel was what you were given for a reason,
Yes.
and let that own and allow for the voice that I was given. And I say the still small voice
Yes.
that I like to bring forward, share with people. That's communication to me.
Yes.
When you can share that voice with other people, and when it's reciprocated, other people share their voice, and there's connection.
I love it.
That's yeah.
For our listeners, if that just really landed for you, please add in the comments, be still. I think that is a good takeaway component of this because in the being still, that still small voice to me, I've always said, listen to the little voice, it's always right. It's the Holy Spirit. It's the Spirit of God speaking to your person. And
Now,
it knows the parts of you that you've forgotten.
I was going to say, whenever I am just conflicted about something, when I drop the question in and listen to that still small voice, it's never wrong. I may not like it. I don't like the answer sometimes, but it's never wrong,
Absolutely.
which is comforting to know.
There's a peace in that.
Yes, there is peace in knowing that. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, this is I just feel like there's like a reverberation of sound in the atmosphere through the things that we've just shared. I so appreciate just the lens that you've provided. It
Thank you.
regardless of what our life experiences have been, and the range is significant. And I always say, for me it was bullying, for somebody else it was very much more extreme. The things,
Hmm.
kind of things that you have heard and talked about, from just the physical, mental, emotional violation that young girls too frequently
Hmm.
experience.
It's true. And to the broader point, this is communication.
Yes.
What we're doing here is that connection of thought and idea and internal truth
Yes.
is the importance, I think, of all of it. If we could just all do that, I think we'd be good.
And I hear in that communication with ourself, because as we're going and doing and giving to everybody else, we're never asking ourselves, hey, what do you need? Hey, is this good for you? Like you said, is this a good place? So you can't set a boundary till you know
What's right for you? Yeah,
for you.
exactly.
You
Exactly. Hmm.
gotta be still and
To
block out
figure it out.
to even hear it.
Mhm.
Oh,
Mhm.
Wynn, thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's so nice to talk about these things, and because it just brings me back to center about the things that are most important. So
Yes,
thank you for having me.
you're welcome. The healing that is offered to us, to our listeners, is through this place that we already always had, but we have to go
That's
back
right.
and find it again sometimes.
Hmm. Particularly if it wasn't modeled for you when you were younger.
Absolutely.
It's discovering it, and recognizing, that was always there, huh? Mhm.
And the affirmation that carries in and of itself, that it was always there, because it feels like trying to grab a cloud, but it was always there.
Mhm.
And now
There's
I need
always
to learn new ways to tap in.
to tap in and recognize I'm enough.
Yes.
All that I was given. I'm good. I'm enough. And through that, listening to that still small voice, finding a way to express it in a way
Yeah.
that keeps you safe and honest with the people you're talking with.
And yourself.
And yourself. Absolutely. It all starts there.
Yes. So, what parting words would you say to someone who is embarking on this journey, or in the middle of it, at any point in the process? What would you share?
Find a way to be kind to yourself. Learning isn't easy. It never has been. It's uncomfortable. And there's no right way to be, there's no right way to learn about loving yourself. Being open to your own spiritual beliefs is one way to go. Connecting with other people is another way. And don't think that there's a book that can tell you how to connect with yourself. There isn't. It's about being still, looking inside and finding your own truth.
Yes. Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I,
You're
I,
very welcome.
I think of my workbook for my little girl that I created. It's called No More Lies, and it's a guided workbook and journey, but it's sitting down asking those questions and pondering those thoughts and working through the
Yes.
prompts. And it's really just
Mhm.
a guide to help you, while you're being still, to do something that maybe you haven't figured out how to do yet. So happy to make available to you the No More Lies guided workbook and healing journal. Here's a quick peek inside that will help you get your own copy to see what we've been talking about, and having a place to write your thoughts as you remember your little girl, identify the lies, find the truth, and then rehearse that truth so that you can walk into the purpose God has called you to. Go to stacyspeakshope.com and order your copy today.
Right. And giving yourself permission
Yes.
to sit in that space.
And because the answers are already inside of you. The book
Yep.
is a tool, but the answers are you. And
Hmm.
your Holy Spirit, the little voice that you listen to. So
And
that is,
some, and once again, sometimes you don't like the answers, but that's life.
yeah.
And you have your choice. You can follow the voice or not. I mean,
Yes.
just know.
Joyce, follow the voice.
It's just crazy, but yeah, absolutely.
That's wonderful. Well, if you want to hear more about what Wynn is sharing through the methods of going back through the internal family systems, tune in to Black Women North of 40, her podcast,
Actually, north of 50.
North of 50.
Yeah, you know what? You're close to 50. It
You're close.
took me.
That's the threshold there, but 50 for sure. And it's so funny because that number has come up in people that I've interviewed that's like a point where we're just like something. I want something different. I'm going to do something different. I see myself differently. So that's a
Yes,
critical, vital point. Maybe it's because it's halfway to 100. I don't know.
I don't know. It's part of the journey of our kids are grow. They were kind of adult at this point, and I've been over functioning for 50 years. And wait a minute,
Like, girl, I'm
time to
tired.
find.
I'm
Just let me sit down somewhere, please. But once I sit there, what am I doing?
right.
And all of those questions. So
That's it. Well, thank you for our listeners.
my
Thank you for
pleasure.
joining another episode. When we look forward to connecting more. Hopefully, I'll see you in person one day and we can go eat because I like to eat
Buying ice cream.
together.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll see you in the next episode. Be blessed.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for watching Staci Speaks Hope. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.